Good morning. We're going to get started shortly, so if you can find your way to your seat. This is a very exciting day for us, and we're so pleased to see so many of you. First, I'd like to start with our welcome, and I'd like to recognize our Superintendent of Schools, Mr. Alfonso Llano.
Thank you, Ms. Quinn. Good morning, distinguished guests and members of the Vineland High School community. It's a privilege to welcome each of you today as we gather to honor an extraordinary individual whose life and legacy have profoundly shaped our community. Today we celebrate the life, service, and sacrifice of First Lieutenant Charles Chickie Asselta, and it is with great pride that we renamed the Vineland High School South building in his memory. Through this tribute, we commemorate his commitment to our nation and honor the lasting inspiration he provides to our students and our community members. Renaming this building is not just a symbolic gesture. It is a powerful testament to the courage, dedication, and pursuit of excellence that First Lieutenant Charles Chickie Asselta embodied. May his legacy, a shining example of selfless service and unwavering commitment, continue to inspire our students to strive for greatness, to serve others, and to make a positive impact on the world around them. Before we continue, I would like to recognize several individuals who have joined us today for this special occasion. From the Vineland Public Schools Central Office team, Mrs. Suzette DeMarchi, Ms. Terry Godlutsky, Mr. Scott Mustarell, and Mr. Jeff Du Bois. From our board member Nick Fiocchi, board member John Sabrana, and our board member Eugene Mario. Our Vineland Mayor Anthony Fanucci is with us today. Vineland City Council members Dr. Arthur, Mr. Spinelli, and Mr. Vargas. Our elected officials, Senator Michael Testa. Cumberland County Commissioners, Victoria Lodes, and Mr. Saleo. From VHS Administration, Ms. Debbie Quinn, Mr. Adams, and our assistant principals. We also have the Mayor of Woodbine, William Pigliski, the Mayor of North Wildwood, Patrick Rosanello, the Mayor of Buena Borough, Joe Baruffi, the Mayor and Commissioner of Seattle City, Leonard Desidario, City Council of Cape May, City Council member from Cape May, Shane Miner, and Council member from Upper Township, Kimberly Hayes. I would like to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude to the Dedication Committee. Your hard work, commitment, and unwavering dedication have made this day possible. Mr. Mustarell, Mrs. Irvine, Mr. Sabrana, Mr. Medio, Ms. Missouri, Mr. Garcia, Mrs. Salerno, Mrs. Quinn, Mr. Patel, Mr. Farnaccio, and your team, along with all the support staff and students who contributed their time and effort, we are deeply grateful for your invaluable contributions. Today's celebration would not be the same without you. Thank you all for joining us today as we pay tribute to First Lieutenant Charles Chickie Asselta and celebrate the remarkable legacy he leaves with Vineland High School. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to introduce Mayor Fanucci.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for taking your time to be here today on this incredible, momentous occasion. This is an honor that is long overdue for the Asselta family, and it's unique when we have one of our own that has paid the ultimate sacrifice that was so close to home. And it's important that we always remember. I want to make a special thanks to all of our military men and women that have served, that continue to serve, and those that have also paid the ultimate sacrifice, as Mr. Asselta did for our country. I want to thank all of our first responders and those especially that are in attendance today for this honor of the building, for all of what you do to help keep our community safe. I'd like to thank the Board of Education, Central Office, for allowing this to happen and put this forward and this naming for today, which is truly an honor and a testament to the Asselta family, and one in which people should look into the history of if they don't already know. At this time, I would like to call up Senator Asselta, as I would like to present him a proclamation for his family. In the expedience of time, I will not read the whole proclamation into the record, but Senator, I would like to present this to you in honor of your brother, Charles Chickie Asselta, on behalf of my office, the City Council, and the governing body of the City of Vineland.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
I will now turn this back over to Miss Debbie Quinn.
Good morning again. I have with me our president of the senior class, Miss Michaela Giuliani. She will be helping me with our ceremony today. Thank you, Michaela. Good morning, honored guests, Central Administration, faculty, staff, and students. My name is Deborah Quinn, and I am the interim principal here at Vineland High School. I'm also a proud graduate of this institution. Today marks a significant milestone in the history of our school, as we officially name our 1112 South building after First Lieutenant Charles Chickie Asselta. This building has been a cornerstone of our educational community for 61 years, housing our junior and senior classes as they prepare for their futures beyond these walls. It has witnessed countless achievements, friendships formed, and dreams realized. In choosing a name for the building, the Board of Education sought out to honor our school's values and our community's heritage, and the aspirations we hold for our students. As you will learn today, First Lieutenant Charles Chickie Asselta was a man of honor, integrity, and an American hero. This name reflects our school's values and goals. It serves as a daily reminder to our students of the potential within them, the legacy they are a part of here at Vineland High School. As we will later unveil the new name, let us recommit ourselves to the pursuit of excellence in education, to foster supportive and inclusive environment, and to prepare our students for the challenges and opportunities that await them after graduation. To our students, may this newly named building inspire you to reach for your highest aspirations. To our faculty and staff, thank you for your tireless dedication to our students' success. And to our community, we are grateful for your continued support to our school and its mission. Let us move forward together, proud of our past and excited for our future. Thank you. Next, we will have an invocation by Pastor Mark Crabtree from Rescue Church.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Asselta, for inviting me here today. It is truly an honor. It was on my heart when I was asked to do this immediately to share two pieces of wisdom with you. The first one is Paul's letter from the Philippians in chapter 4, verse 8. It says, "Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things." The very second one was John 15:13. And it states, "Greater love has no one other than this, that someone laid down his life for his friends." And that's what we celebrate today. If you would all stand with me for a moment of prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this wonderful day that you've given us, the beautiful weather outside. We thank you for the dedication, the motivation, and the sacrifice that Charles Asselta showed this country, his community, and his family. We pray for your peace that surpasses all understanding to be with the family and the friends, not only of him, but all of the Gold Star families that are across our country today. I thank you for the service of the veterans as Veterans Day comes up. We thank you for the JROTC members that are answering the call in their heart to one day serve their country in the future. I ask for your blessing on today. I ask for your blessing on the speakers and for your wisdom to continue to go forth in this school district and throughout this community. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Please stay standing. So sorry. At this time, we're going to have the flag salute. Our ROTC students will be bringing the color guard forward.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, Miss Molly Puglisi will be singing our national anthem. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? At this time, our select choir will be singing our school's alma mater. We're done with the colors then. Okay. You may be seated. Let's hear it for our AFJROTC. At this time, I'd like to call up our New Jersey State Governor's Office Deputy Commissioner of Veterans Affairs, Mr. Vincent Solomeno III.
Good morning. I just wish to take a moment to thank the dedication committee once again. Can we give them a big round of applause? This is such an extraordinary day. As noted, my name is Vincent Solomeno, and I have the privilege of serving as the Deputy Commissioner of Veterans Affairs, as well as the Administrator of Veterans Affairs for the state of New Jersey. A lot of titles, but the proudest one that I wear is a U.S. Army veteran. And I am honored to be here today as we dedicate this place of learning, this fine institution, in the name of First Lieutenant Asselta. To the Asselta family, thank you for the invitation. It is my privilege to offer greetings on behalf of Governor Philip D. Murphy, who sends the following letter. Dear friends, I am pleased to extend a warm greeting to those in attendance of the renaming of the South Building in Vineland High School in honor of Charles Chickie Asselta. As a member of the first graduating class of the new Vineland High School in 1965, Charles courageously enlisted in the U.S. Army in March 1966 and attained the rank of first lieutenant while serving in Texas. Charles was then sent to Vietnam in January 1968, where he actively participated in more than 25 aerial missions over hostile territory in support of counterinsurgency operations. On March 18, 1968, while serving as commanding officer in the Northern Forces and defending the American position at French Port 12 miles southeast of Saigon, Asselta was killed in action. He was just 21 years old. Charles's honorable commitment to the U.S. Army has distinguished him as a role model for veterans, and our country is fortunate to have benefited from his service, which has helped to ensure the safety, health, and well-being of our nation. On behalf of the state of New Jersey, I commend Vineland for bringing awareness to Charles's service and his tremendous impact to his community and our country. Best wishes today for a successful dedication. My very best, signed Philip D. Murphy, Governor of the state of New Jersey. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Solomeno. I'd now like to introduce some of our presentations. First up, our Senator, Mr. Mike Testa.
Good morning, everyone. Today we all are gathered as proud Americans. Some of us, many of us, are proud Vinelanders. Some of us even have the proud distinction of being proud graduates of Vineland High School. Myself, I graduated in 1994. Senator Asselta, you graduated in 1969. And the hero that we are naming this building after graduated in 1965. Mayor Finucci, you often say and use the term Vineland Strong. Today, we are here and we are Vineland Strong. That term hero is used far too often, I think, in modern society. But make no mistake, Chickie Asselta was a hero. And he is more than deserving, and his legacy is more than deserving of naming the high school of which he was the first-year graduate of after him. You know, Vineland is like a very large family, and my father would tell stories of playing summer league basketball with Chickie Asselta. And Nick, I remember, Senator, I remember one time you and I were playing golf on Memorial Day, and we were on the back nine, and you had a moment of reflection about your brother. I'll never forget that moment. And the fact that you're wearing the necklace that your mother wore just shows how proud you are of your big brother. And I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize Joe Griffey's. There isn't a veterans event throughout the state of New Jersey or in Pennsylvania that Mr. Joe Griffiths isn't somehow involved. Joe, it's incredible what you've been able to do for veterans and veterans awareness throughout the state, and at least my entire tenure in the Senate. Thank you, Joe. Every now and again, people are forgotten, by the way, what to be mentioned, so I'm going to be the good political individual right now and recognize our surrogate from Cape May County, Marie Hayes. She was not recognized. I apologize. My parents graduated from Vineland High School in 1967, and they talked about how during the Vietnam War, they would make announcements at lunch about those individuals that were their classmates that were lost in the Vietnam War. I can't imagine being a teenager, sitting in a lunchroom with your friends and being told that some of your friends were lost. Think about what it would be like. My generation didn't understand that, but to hear on that awful, fateful day that Chickie Asselta, as a first lieutenant, lost his life. I think of this, and doing a little bit of research, and I got to speak to the senator very briefly. He enlisted. So many individuals were drafted during Vietnam. Not Chickie Asselta. He wanted to be with his friends. He wanted to enlist in the Army. That's someone who took it upon himself to serve his country, not because he was drafted, but he made the affirmative step to enlist, and he made and paid the ultimate sacrifice for our great nation. And far too many people, as you and I have spoken about, Mr. Griffiths, that were veterans of Vietnam, they weren't treated as the true heroes that they were and are when they got home. But we know for a fact that Chickie Asselta is in fact a hero, and he will be forever remembered with his name being on the Vineland High School South building. Thank you all so very much for listening. May God bless you all, and may God continue to bless the greatest nation this world has ever known, and may God bless Vineland High School, my alma mater. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Testa. Our veterans are truly our heroes. I'd now like to introduce members from the New Jersey Vietnam Veterans Memorial Foundation Board. First, with Chief Executive Officer, Miss Amy Osborne.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you. It is a privilege to be here today to honor First Lieutenant Charles Chickie Asselta. I am pleased to be joined today by New Jersey Vietnam Veterans Memorial Foundation board members and Vineland natives, Stephanie George and her husband, Captain Bill Lenchinsky. As the CEO of the New Jersey Vietnam Veterans Memorial and Museum, it is our mission every day to honor and preserve the legacies of the 1,565 New Jerseyans who lost their lives in Vietnam. Today we honor Lieutenant Charles Asselta, brother of our good friend, Senator Nick Asselta, who is Vice Chairman of the New Jersey Vietnam Veterans Memorial. I worked in Senator Asselta's legislative office 24 years ago, and ever since I've known him, he has worked tirelessly to make sure his brother's sacrifice is remembered and respected. That's why he works so hard for our memorial and museum, to ensure those who made the ultimate sacrifice are never forgotten. As someone who's been a voice for veterans for over 30 years, I can tell you there's something very special about our Vietnam veterans. Visitors of all ages and backgrounds to our museum, located in Homedale, New Jersey, say the Vietnam veteran tour guides are the best part of visiting our memorial and our museum. Our Vietnam veterans will tell you that, unlike servicemen and women from previous wars, when they returned home from Vietnam, they were not welcomed with open arms. They were not met with respect and gratitude. Instead, they were met with anger and hostility from fellow Americans who didn't understand the war that they had been fighting. The Vietnam War is a war that most of our country would like to forget, but we can never forget our veterans. And that is why it is so incredible and so historic that Vineland High School is being dedicated to Lieutenant Charles Asselta, a son of New Jersey, a son of Vineland. This event marks the first New Jersey high school to be named after a Vietnam veteran. Just as New Jersey's 1,565 Vietnam veterans will always be honored at our memorial in Homedale, Lieutenant Charles Asselta will always be honored here at Vineland High School. And future generations of Vineland students will learn this hero's name. Today, we redefine what it means to never forget. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Osborne. I'd now like to introduce the captain of the U.S. Army Airborne, Mr. William Lachinsky.
I see there's tissues up here. The real men do cry. Thank you, Amy. When you get old, you have to wear glasses. Honorable Mayor, all distinguished guests, friends, family, students, faculty, I think we've covered everybody here, and I want to say thank you very much for inviting me to speak to you today. My discussion today is going to be around Vineland High School and my time here, but connected to this young man that we both served in the Army as officers. Let's first talk about the school itself. This campus was built in 1963. The North Campus was built in 1976, combined one of the largest high schools in the region. I graduated in 1973, so 50 years ago I was on this stage and walking these halls, and it was quite a memory. I have a legacy here that I went to high school here. My brother, my wife, her brother, our parents went to Landis. So we're true blue Vineland High School people. Going to school here was amazing. The education was second to none. The teachers, the social activities. I was in a marching band, marching down Landis Avenue to the games. And you know, back then, all you youngsters, there was no social media. Can you imagine? No cell phones, no laptops, no internet, no Facebook, no Twitter, nothing. You want to have social media? You met outside, talked to your buddies, or you went down to the mushroom. Students know the mushroom, right? Okay. My wife had to step aside for a second. She had an emergency phone call, but she may be delayed. She's the next speaker, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'll stretch it out. Don't worry, don't worry. I didn't know Chickie, but my wife did, and her family very well. She grew up down the street off of Chestnut Avenue on Highland Avenue. And I can remember when I was dating my wife, we're high school sweethearts. Not too many people can say that. I've heard the stories on and on about what a wonderful family and what a great man this young man was. Chickie and I do have a lot in common, though. We both were born here, raised here, both graduated high school here. We both were military officers, but that is where the paths went in different directions. I'm explaining to you that. Well, Nikki enlisted and volunteered to join the Army. I would say I volunteered and accepted an ROTC scholarship at Rider University. So my commitment was when I graduated in 1977, I had 5 years of active duty to give to the Army. And at that time, there was no war. There was no guarantees. So I was a commissioned second lieutenant, regular Army commission, quartermaster officer. I had the pleasure of spending time at Fort Lee, Virginia, Fort Bragg. That wasn't so pleasurable. Fort Benning Airborne School, Ranger School, Fort Hood, and last I spent 13 months in Korea, close to the DMZ. When I got out of the service, I was a captain, and I started my civilian career with my wife at the time. Now, Chickie took a different direction. Again, our paths went this way, but they came back. When he graduated high school, he went to Philadelphia. He went to college, architectural school. And I remember Nick telling me the story when he got home one day from school, sitting down with his parents and saying, I wanted to enlist in the Army. I can imagine how honorable his parents were to support that and what kind of character this young man had. Not too many people would have gone through that. He could have just stayed in college, maybe never been drafted. He could be sitting here today, but he did enlist. He was accepted in the Army officer program. He had basic training at Fort Dix, New Jersey. He went to Fort Sill. He was an artillery officer. He had boots on the ground. He served in Texas, some time in Panama. And then in 1968, he was sent to Vietnam. He was killed in action March 18th. A tragic loss to his mom and dad, his brothers, everyone that knew Chickie. It was a tragic situation, and you never forget. You never forget. So I've heard a lot of stories about Chickie from Nick over the past couple of years, being on the board of the Vietnam Memorial in Homedale, and of course with Carl. And I want to reflect on something that I read about General Douglas MacArthur, who spoke at West Point in 1962. Every year, West Point gives out a special award called the Thayer Award. It recognizes the #1 soldier for that year. Whatever their parameters are, he was selected. His speech was built around 3 important words: duty, honor, and country. And didn't Chickie display that when he volunteered? Absolutely. What kind of young man had that kind of character, that integrity? You don't learn that in school. You're born with it. You're born with it from the family that raised him. So, duty, honor, country is how I look at Chickie and his life. Not only is he's memorialized here at Vineland High School, but as Amy had mentioned, he's on the wall at the Veterans Memorial, Vietnam Veterans in Homedale, New Jersey. It recognizes all the soldiers and service members that were killed during Vietnam. We all know of Washington, D.C. and the wall. If you've seen that, it's quite emotional. If you've not been to Homedale, take a ride up north. Come up to North Jersey. I keep talking about South Jersey. It's funny, I live in Montclair, New Jersey, a little sidebar. I talk about the beach, going to the shore. I grew up in Ocean City. Up north, they go to Asbury Park. I said, no, that's not the beach. The beaches are in South Jersey. But please come up to Homedale and see what we've built there. It's really remarkable, and tour the museum. So to bring things back to our celebration, let's remember the memory of what we're honoring today: Chickie, Asselta, and Vineland High School. Thank you very much. And I have the honor of introducing the next speaker, who I've known for 50 years, my high school sweetheart, Stephanie Linchinski. Thank you.
Good morning. 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 I'd like to start by saying it feels so great to be back at my alma mater. I just walked the halls. Brought back a lot of memories. The home of the Fighting Klan, 1974. I was an athlete here and made many friends, but I found that guy, my husband, who joined the ROTC in college and left me back to go to Korea when I lived in Dallas, Texas. But that's not the point. We are here to honor Charles Chickie Asselta, a true American hero, a fearless young man that puts his country first. He had a mindset to get this senseless war done, with a bright future ahead, but was never able to realize it. To put these things in perspective, I grew up on Highland Avenue here in Vineland. I was 21 when I married and moved to Dallas. My father's parting words to me, no matter how successful you become, or wherever you are in this world, never forget where you came from. You're just a little girl from Vineland, New Jersey. Turned out to be true. I love this town, and forever love it. Why? Because we were the most tight-knit neighborhood and community one could ever ask to grow up in. The Asselta family, they were quiet. They were great as it gets, just great neighbors, truly extraordinary people. Mr. and Mrs. Asselta raised 3 young men to be the finest and most thoughtful and kind men in our community. They were very well behaved, not like all of us. It's true. Very true. My dad worked around the clock at a clothing factory, and Mr. Asselta would often remember his bus stop and pick him up and take him home. Mrs. Asselta was a low-key and forceful mom who focused on her boys, her life. Chickie, Nick, and Carl, who graduated with me. Carl was an honor student. I would say out of 1,100 kids, he was probably in the top 10 or something. He won't say that. I asked him at dinner. He doesn't remember. Nick, I don't know if you know this, but was a rocket pitcher. In my spare time, every night, I'd go to the park and I'd watch him pitch. And I was a pitcher, and I couldn't believe you just couldn't hit his ball. But I don't know if you know, he was drafted into the big leagues. My hero. And later became our state senator. Charles Chickie Asselta chose to fight for America in Vietnam and ultimately fought for his life, to fight for us, to fight for America in Vietnam, which ultimately cost him his life, which is denied what was deemed as the greater good. It wasn't. He died as a hero, sacrificing his lives for ours. I'm standing here today because I'm a proud member of the Vietnam Memorial here in New Jersey. I have memories, boy, I do. I was one of the few that heard, the knock on the door in our classroom at Mr. Miller's class. Carl was asked to leave the room. Our teacher notified us that Chickie was killed in Vietnam. There was no explanation, but the entire community, including everybody walking these hallways, was devastated. Everyone came together to try to help this beautiful family, but nothing ever could stop those memories of this terrible tragedy that day and forevermore. The pain this family went through, still goes through, cannot be put into words. Nick and Carl are the remaining survivors of this legacy, where we are now here in honor of a true American hero, our hero, an American hero, Charles Chickie Asselta. The renaming of this school is a really big deal. And those that passed it through, I would like to say thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. For someone to be recognized with this honor is truly unbelievable. Nick, you worked tirelessly to get this done like you do with everything else you touch in your life. And it hasn't stopped with this big deal. There are so many more. This is just a milestone for Nick, a big one, but Nick was instrumental in building New Jersey Vietnam Memorial in Homedale, New Jersey, the largest in America, in honor of our fallen soldiers in Vietnam. Bill and I joined the board to help Nick, Asselta, the fabulous Amy Osborne. I don't know how you do it, Amy. I really don't. And to build this dream in his honor. Nick and Carl, I'm so proud to have grown up with you, sharing your friendship for years, loving our neighborhood, our community, and this wonderful institution called Vineland High School. The renaming says it all. We should all, in every moment, never forget and always remember why we're here, for Charles Chickie Asselta, for the rest of our lives. I know I will. One hand doesn't wash alone. Thank you for attending.
Thank you, Mrs. Gubitosi-Lachinsky. I'd now like to introduce our Cumberland County Commissioner, Mrs. Victoria Lodes.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Cumberland County Commissioner Victoria Lodes. I don't normally write down my remarks, but today is just too important to make sure that we say all the things that need to be said. I'm honored to be here, but to say that I'm honored that you all chose to join us today would be a vast understatement. As I've watched for the last 25 years, this family work in some way, shape, or form, tirelessly is the exact right word, to honor their son and their brother, Charles Chickie Asselta. I'm the proud member of Vineland High School class of 1998 and the proud daughter and granddaughter of VHS classes 1950, 51, and 75, some of whom are here today. Each of these classes is unique and has a story to tell, just as each member of those graduating classes will go on to write their own story. Naming a building also provides a sense of story, a human element in an otherwise cold structure. It creates sentimental value and a sense of grandiose that lends to the character of the building and the development of the community that it serves. Today, I'd like to tell you the story of the name now adorning Vineland High School South Building. That name is Charles Chickie Asselta. The story of this name starts in 1871 when the Pasquale family, Chick's great-grandparents, came to Vineland a mere 10 years after Charles K. Landis founded the city as a utopian colony of opportunity in every way. And boy, has it been a bastion of opportunity for all the characters that helped write the story of Charles Chickie Asselta. The Pasquales established the first brick and block company in South Jersey on 6th and Quince. Every brick and block that was used to build in South Jersey came from right here in Vineland. They quite literally built the city. The Reber School, Morris Fells School, First Trust Bank, our local Methodist church, both Presbyterian churches, the Vineland Historical Society, endless homes and businesses, the Vineland Veterans Home, and even our first library commissioned by Andrew Carnegie himself. From brick and block, they built a lumber yard and a coal bin and ultimately a hardware store to not only continue building our city, but also helping other Vinelanders build their dreams. The Pasquale's eldest daughter, Catherine, married Carl Asselta, a farmer's son. It is Vineland after all, there must be a farmer somewhere in the story. In 1946, just after he returned home from World War II, of course, they built their home of brick and raised 3 boys, Charles, Nicholas, and Carl Jr. Instead of building the city, Carl decided to serve and protect the residents of Vineland. He served as a Vineland police officer and detective for 17 years. But the one person he couldn't protect was his eldest son, Chick. Chickie is a member of the first graduating class of the new Vineland High School in 1965 and heads off to college to become an architect. and hopefully build homes with Dad someday. Times were different then. Chickie watched as friend after friend got drafted to fight in Nam. He could have taken advantage of his college deferment, but instead he enlisted and went off to Oklahoma for officer candidate school in 1966. With nothing but endless opportunities ahead, Chick chose to be a leader. He enlisted in hopes that his service might protect his two younger brothers from being drafted. On March 18, 1968, Charles Chickie Asselta, commanding officer in the Northern Forces protecting Saigon, was killed in action in Vietnam. Some stories end with tragedy, but not this story. Not today. The Asselta family grew stronger. If their eldest son and brother gave his life to protect America, they were going to commit their lives to creating an America that was worth protecting, starting at home in Vineland. Carl ultimately becomes Vineland's housing and urban development director, who fights for the funding to build the beacon of our city, Vineland City Hall, and other projects that help shape Vineland and get her ready to grow into the next generation, as is most evident today. Carl, still a young boy, kept his parents grounded after this loss. With the highest IQ in Vineland in the family, he was the first to graduate from college and continued to be the glue that held this family together. Chickie's younger brother, Nick, used his talent to advocate and fight for the residents of Vineland as a school board member, state assemblyman, and ultimately our state senator. Asselta changed the game in so many ways for Vineland, bringing schools, our hospital, economic growth, and much-needed aid to our local nonprofits. He wrote and sponsored the legislation of the New Jersey School Construction Program in 2000, providing funds to the Vineland School District to build 4 new schools. Today, you might know them as Pilla, Saboteur, Wallace, and Petway. Thanks to Nick, these schools were fully funded by the state of New Jersey with no additional expense to the taxpayers of this town. Imagine the stories that are being written by the students who have the opportunity to attend these new schools. Nick had buildings for the Puerto Rican Festival Committee. The Big Brothers Big Sisters donated for a mere $1, so these organizations had the opportunities to help those that needed it and went on to write their own stories. Thanks to Nick, we saw our urban enterprise zone reinstated in 1999. After being dead for 15 years, he traveled all over the state, getting other urban areas to sign on to this initiative so Vineland could benefit from this program, once again bringing hundreds of new businesses to Vineland and rewriting their stories of success. Our city's greatest asset, the electric utility, was protected by Nick in 2000 when he changed the legislation in the New Jersey Energy Deregulation Bill to allow Vineland to continue generating electricity within their service area. Without his efforts, the most valuable entity would have been overregulated out of existence, and that's a chapter nobody would want to read. Education, philanthropy, economic stability, protection of our assets, what's left? The health of our city. When it was time to build a new hospital, Nick insisted that it needed to be built within Vineland city limits and didn't quit standing up for Vineland until they agreed to build Cumberland County's newest leading medical center on the Inspira campus, where it serves so many, so they can continue to write their stories of healthy living, survival, and memories with their family. What we are doing today is not simply naming a building after Charles Chickie Asselta. What we are doing today is naming a school after immigrants, entrepreneurs, builders, police officers, visionaries, war heroes, fathers, sons, milestone graduates, leaders, family, friends, resilience, and the embodiment of what it means to be Vineland strong. I know my own story of public service was inspired by this family's mission to honor the life of their beloved son and brother. I started my journey in public service back in 1999 as Chief of Staff to Senator Nick Asselta, and from there I went on to work in the nonprofit world and later became an educator working with thousands of students in Bridgeton, Millville, and Vineland High School. And finally, being inspired by great leaders and their causes like the Asselta families, I was elected in 2022 to serve as Cumberland County Commissioner and continue to advocate for the great people and places of America right here from Cumberland County. This name carries the weight of the story of Vineland. It is my hope that each student that passes through the halls of the Asselta building will be just as inspired to write their stories lined with perseverance, fortitude, resilience, and hometown pride.
As with everything the Asselta family and everyone they inspire does, this one's for Chick. I'd like to call my fellow Commissioner Joe Cilio up. We have a proclamation to present to Senator Asselta. Sit down, dude. It's okay.
Thank you, Victoria. Wow, what a story. Thank you, Asselta family. Now we're going to have some remarks from friends and family. First, I'd like to introduce Mr. F. John Sabrana, Vineland Public Schools board member.
Good morning. Senator Testa, Mayor Finucci, Superintendent Yano, Asselta family members, and honored guests. It's a privilege and a great honor for me to be here today, speaking on behalf of my colleagues on the Vineland Board of Education and our president, Mrs. Kim Kadasbati, who's also here today. Approving the naming of a facility in our district is among the greatest responsibilities of our board, but it's also one that gives great satisfaction. Lieutenant Charles Chickie Asselta was a fifth-generation Vineland resident and a proud member of the first Vineland High School class of 65 from this building. He was also one of the Vineland High School graduates and Vineland residents who made the ultimate sacrifice for his country in Vietnam. Chickie Asselta was several years ahead of me at Vineland High School, but his status as one of the cool guys was well known to me because he was a senior class leader, an athlete, and someone who dedicated himself to community service even at a young age. In those days, we were in awe of those students. We looked up to them, and many of us wished to aspire to meet or even surpass some of their accomplishments in academics, athletics, and especially extracurricular activities. That's what high school was like in those days. Chickie Asselta was also a young man who eagerly confronted every challenge. So when called to arms, he volunteered, not taking a deferment, which is something that was very much in vogue at the time. In Vietnam, Lieutenant Asselta actively participated, as you've heard, in those forward observer missions. A little research on that said, or told me that these were very light aircraft, unarmed, and they flew low and slow over enemy territory. The goal was to direct artillery fire in support of U.S. troops without unnecessarily endangering citizens. In military terms, this is called danger close. As was stated before, on March 18, 1968, while serving as officer in charge of one of these missions, Lieutenant Asselta was killed in action. That was 56 years ago, and his death was made on behalf of every citizen of this country. After today, his heroism and sacrifice will be forever remembered because his name will be seen atop this building by everyone. Not only for his death in Vietnam or his heroic military actions before his death, or because he walked these halls, giving back as much to the school as what he took, or because he was a member of a well-known Vineland community member dedicated to service and sacrifice for others. We will be bestowing this honor for all those reasons. His brothers, Nick and Carl, are here today. I've known Nick and worked with him all of my adult life, and we were only a year apart in high school. Like Chickie, Nick was a standout athlete and a leading member of the class of 1969, but he also shared the family commitment to service as an elected official at the local, county, and the state level. And so it goes, as you've heard before, in a city where men and women have such deep roots and passion to improve and preserve the quality of life in our community for everyone. Beyond this wonderful ceremony today, it is our hope that every student who walks these halls from this day forward will see the name on the front of the building and want to know the story of Lieutenant Asselta. We will be sure that they learn about them. And by acquiring this knowledge, they will also aspire to live up to our school's motto, enter to learn, go forth to serve. Thank you.
Next, we will have from the Veterans Advocate and host of the Welcome Home Show, Mr. Joe Griffiths.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Gold Star family, Asseltas, thank you for the sacrifice of 56 years ago. I believe Nikki told me you were already at school. I hope I'm not stealing your speech, but your younger brother went out the door when the chaplain and the military showed up to give your family the word. No one will know what that pain is like unless you answer the door or you come home from school and you feel that grief. Lieutenant Charles Asselta served in Vietnam with the 9th Infantry Division. One other thing, I want to thank Mike Testa. He always goes overboard in making comments about me, and I appreciate it. And he's a good friend. And I also notice Mayor Razzanelli, who led the charge with the last 5 years with a couple of my buddies and myself. And I think it's about a $5 million project that's complete, the Gold Star Memorial that will be honoring families like Nick in North Wildwood, the gateway into Wildwood. And it's the first Herschel Woody Williams Memorial that will honor Gold Star families. Who was Charles Carl Asselta? He was a lieutenant in the 9th Infantry Division. Him and I had something in common. He came home in March of 1968. I came home from Vietnam in July of 68. Our homecomings were a little bit different. I was insulted, called a baby killer, ignored by my neighbors, couldn't get a job, was told I was too dumb to go to college. The VA didn't even want to talk to us. They're the ones that sent us. Charles came home in a metal casket packed with dry ice so his family would see him one more time before he was buried. And one memory that stays with me about coming home is I didn't give a damn how they treated me, spit on me, called me a baby killer, whatever they did to me. But they shouldn't have lumped Charles Carl Asselta in with us. He gave his life up at 20 years old. He left the farmlands of Vineland. Can you just imagine Senator Testa and Senator Asselta, how beautiful Vineland was back in the 60s? Fruit and produce stands up and down the roads, baseball fields, grass-growing trees, farmland all over the place. Charles didn't take a 24-hour car ride to Canada that a lot of people did. He took a 24-hour plane ride. And why did he join the military? He could have waited around to get drafted. He could have waited around, figure out maybe they'll pass me. He went because his buddies were going. That was so frequent throughout the 60s. He went to protect his buddies and to bring them home. A lot of them came home, but he didn't. He went to protect his city of Vineland, his county of Cumberland, his state of New Jersey, and the country of the United States. He could have stayed at home and been an architect, a builder, made a lot of money. We sure as hell didn't get paid a lot. I went the same time he went to Vietnam. We were a few months difference. We made $80 a month. We didn't even get minimum wage. $80 a month. That was very sad. But today, you know, they say a veteran never dies till he's forgotten about. Well, Vineland, let me tell you something. You will never let Charles Carl Asselta be forgotten. His name will be on the building. His name will be on letterheads. His name will be on diplomas. It'll be a mail coming in and out of the school and going out of the school. People passing by will know he will always be alive. But two things, besides putting his name on the building, you put his heartbeat in this building. His heartbeat is in the walls, on the carpet, on the stage, in the cafeteria, in the lunchroom, in the auditorium, in the principal's office. The heartbeat of Charles will go on. You know, I get asked 7 or 8 years ago on a radio show, I got a phone call, and somebody said, "What is a Vietnam veteran? How would you describe it, Joe?" So I told my producer, let's go to a break, and I jotted down 2 or 3 items we came back on. And then I went home and I added a few more. 58,700 veterans fought, came home, passed away in Vietnam. 33,000 were teenagers. Dan Bullock was 15. We had about 20 that were 16. All they did was lie. I hope they apologize to God because they lied using their brother's birth certificate to go fight for their country. But I thought about it, and I came back a couple weeks later on our show, and I said, I want to tell everyone what I think a Vietnam veteran is. And this includes Charles. Vietnam veterans were teenagers that jumped off their bike and ran to a plane or boat to go to Southeast Asia. A teenage Vietnam veteran was one that quit his paper route and went to fight a war. A teenage veteran, Vietnam veteran, was one that went to bed one night and stuck his stickball bat in the corner of his bedroom and woke up and found an M16 there replacing it. He was a teenager that went to bed, and in the morning when he woke up, he put his hands under his bed to pull out his Chuck Taylor sneakers and found a pair of combat boots replacing it. He was a teenager that was taught to love your neighbors, to love your neighborhood, to be courteous to your family, to your neighbors, to your teachers, to your church. Obey them. And now in the teenagers, he was told to go the other side of the world and kill them. There were teenagers that kissed their mom and dad goodbye like Charles did, and then hugged his brothers and said, I'll see you soon. And a few months later, they were laying, hugging the ground of Southeast Asia, while AK-47 bullets were flying over their heads to stay alive. They were teenagers. Charles traded in his hoagies and his soda pop and the great produce that was born here, that was raised here in Vineland, for warm, dirty, unsanitized canteens of water and sea rations in a can that were left over from World War II and Korea. They were the ones that woke up in the morning and went downstairs, and before they went in the kitchen to eat breakfast, they stopped in the dining room to get their baseball glove and the ball they put in it the night before, and they found out the ball was replaced with a hand grenade to take to Vietnam. They were teenage Vietnam veterans that left home clean of heart, soul, mind, and body. Came back broken, forgotten about, couldn't get a job, ignored, discriminated against. And it didn't matter if you were white, black, colored, Jew, Protestant, atheist, Muslim. We were all treated the same way. Very disrespectful. There were teenagers that came home and were forgotten about, totally forgotten about. No other generation in our country were forgotten about or treated like our Vietnam veterans. And sadly, there's only 28% of our Vietnam veterans are still alive. 72% have died. We got to do a better job of taking care of the ones that are still alive. We got to help the ones that can't help themselves. And finally, maybe the saddest statistic that I just read. 50 years ago, Charles and I were given sleeping bags as part of our equipment, our first day in the military. And 50 years later, we have 40,000 homeless veterans on the street of America, and a lot of them are Vietnam veterans, and we're still giving them sleeping bags. What is wrong with this? What is wrong with this? We got to put roofs over their head. We got to put a light switch in the room, a ceiling over their head. They can't go to bed at night with the stars as their ceiling, the moon is their nightlight, and a shower if it's warm enough in the morning to get a shower in the woods. That's got to stop in this country. And finally, today, Lieutenant Charles Asselta, Vineland, New Jersey says, Lieutenant, you will never be forgotten because today Vineland remembers you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Griffiths. Our next speaker is a VHS classmate of 1965. That's the year my mom graduated also. Mr. Edward Morvay.
Well, time has come. Good morning. For those who don't know me, I was just introduced, I'm Ed Morvay. Reason I was asked is Nick called me, and Chick was my closest friend. Bear with me. Let me explain why my brother Nick Asselta asked me to speak about Chick. Chick and I were like brothers. We became best friends in high school. We both graduated in class of 65. Chick and I were born 17 days apart. He on the 2nd of February in the old year of 1947. I 17 days later. Chick and I shared our thoughts, ideas, and girlfriends. Needless to say, we enjoyed high school. We acted like we were brought right out of American Graffiti. Allow me to share a glimpse of our friendship. We met at Memorial School, became best friends, which became stronger as we reached high school. Chick was the athlete, football, basketball. I sold fruits and vegetables for Morvay's Market. However, I would, or he would, tag along with events laid out before us. One of those was in October '64. He and I went to this Snell building, which was an electrical building on 2nd and Elmer, to help a number of VHS girls build a float for homecoming. Chick was always up to meeting with girls as well as I was. Chick took it upon himself to introduce me to a pretty girl. Darlene, shocked. Fast forward to January '65. I started to date her. He started to date a young lady by the name of Cindy Stampen. we enjoyed double dating, and that reduced our transit time up and down Landis Avenue, for we had other things better to do. Fast forward, June 65, graduation. We set at 65, both of us off to college in September. Chick went off to Philadelphia. I went off to Milwaukee. In January, I transferred back to Wilmington to get my degree. Chickie moved on, easier to continue our relationships because we were now pretty much home together. In March of '66, Chick decided that it was his time, as everybody mentioned, to join up. He went over to Fort Dix for his basic training. I still in college, but Chick and I shared his strengths and intelligence to take part, and his first year of Army life proved his opportunity and his abilities to his upper echelon. Bring Chick along, September '67. He graduated after going to Fort Sill and being sent there OCS. For those who know, OCS is Alfred Kennedy School. Excuse me. I decided in '67 to marry that girl he introduced me to back in October '64. I asked Chick in the wedding party, but he could not commit, for he was not sure about what the Army had in store for him over the next coming months. However, Chick, in his own way, was able to wangle a furlough and came home to attend our wedding, which was November 11th, 1967. Actually, it's, 8 days from today, Darlene and I will celebrate 57 years of marriage. This is where it gets tough. This would be the last time I saw my best friend. A handshake, a strong hug, and I followed him to state, please take care and make sure that you come home. That was the last time I saw my buddy. His deployment in January '68 to Vietnam, he then achieved, between that time, he went from second lieutenant to first lieutenant. And I'm telling you, that's not bad for a guy that graduated Vineland High School, the city of Vineland, to go in 2 years of service from a second lieutenant to a first lieutenant. He became a forward observer, field artillery unit commander. Not bad. I was able to keep in touch through Mom and Dad, who I called Carl and his mother, Catherine. They were Mom and Dad to me. However, as everybody told you, the 18th of March, I lost my best friend. Toughest part I've had in life, two things. One, speaking about Chick today, and the second was going to Highland Avenue to sit with Catherine, his mother, my mother. I'm thankful for our friendship. The first thing he introduced me to my future wife back in October '64. Chick set my life and my wife's life for future. It allowed us to have 2 children, 3 grandchildren, 1 great-grandchild, except I'm not old enough to be a grandparent, so my wife has taken that over. Chick, if it wasn't for Chick introducing me to Darlene, my life could have been different. I ended up being a very successful man in business, having a wonderful family. My wife and I attended Vineland High School. My son and daughter attended Vineland High School. My oldest granddaughter attended Vineland High School. My 2 other granddaughters attended Vineland schools up until 8th grade. They both were over at CC Tech. And I'm not sure when my great-granddaughter will go because she just turned 2, so we'll wait for a while, and I'm hoping to around and see what she does. I'm certain that we all carry his memory in our heart. For the opportunity, I thank you for the opportunity of allowing me to present to you an amazing guy and share a little bit of why he was my best friend, First Lieutenant Charles Chick Asselta. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morvay. Next, we will have the brother, Mr. Carl Asselta, Jr.
Good morning. So, thanks to the board for this honor to my brother and family, and really also to the 12 other soldiers and families from Vineland from that tumultuous time in our history. Abraham Lincoln called the mystic chords of memory. People conjure up their visions from the past, some good, some awful. As my brother and I were talking, remembering, we realized that we both had memories that intersected and then moved off on a tangent. As I was leaving for school that morning, I saw the black government car pull up in front of the house. I saw the soldiers get out of the car, straighten their uniforms, walk across the grass. They came towards the front door. My 13-year-old self didn't comprehend what this meant. So I turned back towards the stairs and called up to my father. He was already coming down the stairs very quickly. My mother was standing back, half behind the bedroom door, not wanting to know. So there I was, standing there helpless at the worst moment of their lives. So information was given, then shock turned to inconsolable grief. So I decided it wasn't really good for me to stay there, so I went to school and told them to send for me when they needed me. As I walked to school, I was angry, not grieving. I was thinking about how my 13-year-old self could get even with those who killed my brother. I got to class, sat at my desk, not telling anyone. I waited for them to come and get me. It seemed like forever. My 15-year-old cousin Frank came and got me out of class. We walked a mile back to my house discussing my anger. I hadn't realized that anger was until last year at the New Jersey Memorial rededication. Every memorial wall I saw, Washington, Vineland, Homedale, and various traveling walls I've been to, I always felt anger. But now it wasn't revenge I felt, but disgust at the sheer waste and uselessness of these stupid ongoing wars we've gotten involved in. Waste of young lives, waste of our country's honor, waste of families broken and battered by senseless interventions, and sadly they continue. I'm deeply proud of Chickie's bravery, and I honor his memory every chance I get. But knowing what collateral damage is done to the mothers of this country gives me a special outlook. When the leaders of this country engage in senseless conflicts, it is the mothers and fathers and families that bear the true cost. Unrealized dreams and broken hearts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Asselta. And on behalf of the Asselta family, former Senator Mr. Nicholas Asselta.
Well, they're here in spirit. Here's my father's police badge, Councilman Vargas, wherever you are. You would recognize this, and my mother's gold star. She wore religiously. First off, boy, there's a lot of thank yous. And this is going to be tough, but got to do it. Let me first thank Superintendent Yano for allowing this to happen and making absolutely sure that this event turned out the way it did. And Rosino, you are a special person for doing what she did to make this come off the way it did. The Vineland School Board, obviously former member, treasured my time there. We got a lot of things, good things done. All the members I really appreciate. The 9-0 vote, usually when I was on there, we're 5-4 for something. We're always kind of, everybody had our own opinions about things. But most importantly, my good friend and high school buddy, Eugene Medio, for making this happen. Gene, thank you. A true friend. All the speakers, I can go right down the list. They're all super people. We planned to make it special. I know it's been long out there. I have some things to say, but they were all fantastic people. I am so proud of leadership, what we have here in Vineland. We have a tremendous mayor. We have a state senator that eventually replaced me, a family friend. His family, the Testa family and the Asselta family, have been linked together forever. They were even in our church, the Memorial Presbyterian Church. But most importantly, these are the leaders of our future. I'm handing the torch off to these people, Anthony, Michael, and they're doing a fabulous job. You should be proud you have this kind of leadership in this community, in this county, in this region. Yeah, you can clap for that. You should. My brother mentioned there were 13 other Vietnam veterans that passed away, died in the war, and he mentioned, and I think I want to just read their names. Harry Shepard, Joe Hayes, Lewin Ferreira, John Frambies, who actually grew up next door to us, George Gabora, Lance Jenkins, John Mount, Bobby Mora, Richard Davis, John Cavalis, George Veman, Leo Green, and Joe Dana. These people were heroes too, and we're doing this for them too. I also want to acknowledge the Asselta family that's here, and this is not the first building dedicated with the Asselta name in Vineland. It is actually the second. Asselta Acres, a housing authority building, my father's cousin Joe Asselta was instrumental for many years, a volunteer board that built many of affordable housing in Vineland over the years, and the Asselta family is here, and thank you for coming. Cousins, this is for you too. The name continues. There's a special person out here. Her name is Jean Campbell. Jean, would you stand up, please? Jean Campbell, if you can. Jean Campbell is the only, which we can find, the only Gold Star mother of a Vietnam veteran left in New Jersey. Yes, please stand, please. This. I happened to get to meet her one day. We were playing cards, and she took the whole pot from me one day. We were playing. I said, "Who are you again?" So she's just a fabulous woman, 97 years old. But Randall Campbell will always be remembered, and our memorial honors him each and every day. More thank yous, obviously, is important. This is all important, and I know it's the day is getting long, but this is a one-shot deal. The Vineland Historical Society and Commission, I believe, is here. Can you stand, Chris? Are you here? Chris is back there, right? These people, Chris Moore, they are so important to us because they help all of us remember our roots, continue to honor our town, our community, and the people in our community who have given so much. So once again, thank you for continuing to honor all of us and taking that to the next generation and what you did. Thank you again, Chris. Oh my God, I got numbers. 153 years that my family's been here. Did the calculations, but what is important is those 153 years has been documented, has been talked about. Victoria did a wonderful job telling our story as a family, and that was my mother's side. But my father's side were farmers in Bunaboro. But my father's great uncle was left the farm when he was 12 years old. Him and his two other brothers left my grandmother there, and she got married to my grandfather. Went back to New York and actually built a tremendous business called Jerosa Construction. And one of the brothers became city comptroller in New York City back in the 50s. And if you're a Yankee or a Dodger fan, he was responsible for the Brooklyn Dodgers leaving New York and moving to LA. He refused to build Joe O'Malley a stadium for the Brooklyn Dodgers out of taxpayers' dollars of the city of New York, and he threatened my great uncle. My great uncle said, "Move." And they moved, and the New York Giants moved, and the New York Mets replaced them. So the history is set in both directions. Both families have a strong work ethic, and this was the American dream. Both sides. My family lived both sides of that. I want to also mention a little bit about Gold Star families because I don't think people realized that Gold Star families, what the sacrifice and what the responsibility is there. Every day they wake up and they think, what if? What if my son came back? What would he be today? Would he be a doctor? Would he be a lawyer? Would he be a successful businessman? Or would he just be a carpenter or a plumber? Or, it didn't matter, a teacher, an educator, anything. They hope every day or wished every day that person would come back, that son or daughter, in this case, would return back. They live that every day. I watched that. I watched that evolve with my parents. My father went to the cemetery almost every day, visit that gravesite. As my brother mentioned, the senseless wars that happen can be avoidable. That war was avoidable. I have a letter that I just became cognizant of from Ho Chi Minh. If anybody knows who Ho Chi Minh was, he was our ally in World War II. He was the Emperor of Vietnam. He helped us win World War II. And my father, being a former Air Force and bomber crew member, was stationed in Southeast Asia. His whole 4 years out there will tell you, people like Ho Chi Minh helped them defeat the Japanese. When the war was over, Ho Chi Minh sent a letter to our leadership in Washington requesting a meeting because he wanted to turn Vietnam into a democracy. He didn't want the French to come back and socialize them and take advantage of them. Unfortunately, our leadership in Washington at the time sided with the French and gave the French back to them. So where did Ho Chi Minh go? He went north to China, and China turned them into a communist nation. Hence the Vietnam War, which was the most impactful event in the last part of our century from 1950 to 2000 that affected everyone and every life in our country and this world. One bad decision can affect thousands, millions of people on this planet. That's why I kind of made this event with the approval of the school board on the day before Election Day. And I don't care who you vote for tomorrow, but vote. And vote with your head. Young men like my brother gave their life because he was the first offspring of the greatest generation coming out of World War II. He was trained. He was patriotic. My father made sure we knew every Memorial Day and Veterans Day. We went. We stood there with him. We were so intense on Election Day. My father was always working on Election Day for whoever he wanted. It didn't matter. He wanted us to make sure we paid attention and respected the elected process. He taught my brother to be patriotic and to serve. When your country calls, like my father jumped off a tractor on Summer Avenue in Buena Borough to go serve. Now, he probably could have got a deferment too. You know why? He was a farmer. Farmers could stay back and grow food and produce for the nation. He jumped off that tractor, second son out of 3, 5 sisters. He went and he served and he came back. He passed that on to us. He was truly, and his colleagues were the greatest generation this country will ever know. Ever know. Well, my brother taught me a few things I just want to mention because this is the legacy and what happens. You hand a torch down. I know Anthony Finucci, I knew his brother well and what he did for his younger brother, how he passed things down. My brother taught me how to play sports first. My father was so busy working. He was a police officer, a detective. He had a building business. He had a pool hall. We had a diner. He worked all the time. So my older brother was kind of like my dad in a way. He taught me how to play ball. He drugged me around everywhere. And the older guys would say, why are you bringing that kid around all the time? He's my brother. He taught me how to work. He'd take me to jobs my father was building. He'd make me do all the dirty work, climb into the crawl space and insulate it, carry shingles on a roof when he was nailing shingles down. I was the grunt, but he taught me how to work. He also taught me how to defend myself. I remember one time in 7th grade, I was in gym class, and this big kid picked on a friend of mine. And my friend of mine happened to be a police officer's son also. And I pushed the guy, and the guy swung at me and punched me, and then I hit him back, and it was a fight. Typical 7th grade fight. Cracked my knuckle, bleeding all over. I don't know if I got suspended or not, didn't matter. I came home, my brother immediately bought boxing gloves. He put me out in the backyard, brought all the kids in the neighborhood, let's have a boxing match. Show me how to box and how to defend myself. That's a big brother. But he sacrificed. The letters I have that go back from when he was leaving were the most emotional things you could ever read. You know, there were 2 sets of letters. The set that went home to Mom from Vietnam and the set that went to the Vineland Police Department that my father would read. So the good letters, oh, Mom, it's great here. I'm having, everything's good. I'm safe. Then the letters started coming to my father, which I cherish and I have, would start describing the two letters. The last 2 letters were so impactful on my life. The officers bunker down every night together. The captains, the lieutenants, the colonels, they get in a bunker together, and he sent a letter back to my father, said, one night we got mortared by Russian mortars. First time we've seen Russian mortars bombarding our emplacements. We lost casualties. The next night, a direct hit in our bunker. I had just built my piece of the bunker 3 sandbags higher, saved my life. Everybody in that bunker died except him, whose head got blown off, whose arm got blown off. He then, as he told my father, I'm now in charge of the 3 battalions in the northern forces of Saigon. In that letter, he sent a request for replacements to then General Westmoreland. I am now in control. I need 2,000 more troops to protect the capital city of this country. I need them now. The next letter I got was the day he died, documented. He said in the opening part of his letter, sorry to say, but Lyndon Johnson said, no more troops, you're on your own. I read that letter on Memorial Day 2 years ago. Leadership, it matters. You're on your own. We put you there, but you're on your own. At the end of that letter, there was a blank page on the back, said, gotta leave, gotta hit a helicopter, gotta find out how close they are to us. I'll write you later. Love you, bye. That's it. Big blank space, the end of a life. Done. All because of poor decisions, leadership in this country. We all had to pay for it. My brother was exactly right. He should be angry. I took my anger out in different ways. I decided to dedicate myself to helping veterans, building buildings, and my grandparents were the builders of buildings. As Victoria Lodes mentioned, we were the builders of this community. We came here early with a bag of masonry tools, then brought many Italian-American families over here to help build this city and build the region. But also, they were builders of relationships. And I think my father taught me how to do that. And with relationships, you can also build things and get things done in government. And that's what I did. So with that ending, I just want everybody to realize that these sacrifices are important to this country, but they can be avoided. So when you vote tomorrow, and whoever you vote for, keep that in mind, that those people are the decision makers of all of us, of all our families, of all our kids and grandkids, and their futures, all hang in the balance with the right decision. So I will end with this. My mother, on 3 days before she passed, she sat me down on the bed and said, Nick, I'm going here with your brother, my grandparents, my husband. You're staying here with your wife and your friends and your brother. I'll be good. But do me one favor. I go, what, Mom? Tell our story. Tell our story. Mom, I told our story today. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Asselta. Thank you, Asselta family, for your sacrifice. At this time, I'm going to let the cadets set up outside. They are dismissed. We will be watching a 6-minute reel on why it matters. And after the movie, we will head outside for the unveiling while we listen to taps by Mr. Aaron Williams. First, the reel.
Hey guys. Hi, how are you? Have you guys been to the New Jersey Vietnam Veterans Memorial before? No? No. We're glad you're here. We love to have people come and visit. All of our volunteers are Vietnam boots on the ground veterans. Okay guys, as we walk down, the first man in formation was called the point man.
A democracy survives through emotion and through passion. And that's why this place is so important. The Vietnam Veterans Memorial Foundation is the only memorial and museum in the whole United States of America.
The original thought for the project came about back in the late 80s as a result of veterans who had gone to the Vietnam Memorial that was built in Washington, D.C. They said, why don't we have one in New Jersey?
The Last Patrol, New Jersey Vietnam veterans on a mission to trace and return the names of New Jersey's lost from Washington's Vietnam Memorial. They will spend over 2 weeks marching from Washington to Homedale, a journey of more than 230 miles.
We wanted to create a facility to give us another dimension because the war did not occur in a vacuum. We summoned Governor Tom Kean